and he's in the Beit El area, as we see. He comes back wealthy. He goes down to Mitzrayim destitute, but comes back wealthy, gifted from king of Mitzrayim. And now, let's see what happens. Who else became wealthy? So the Torah says in Pasuk 5, hey, V'gam lelo, ha'olech et Avram, hayatzonu v'kar ve'olim. What's the connection that why is Lot also wealthy? How is it? Why is he also wealthy? He has tzon, bakar, olim. He has. Where does he get it from?
His uncle, Avram, the man of Chesed.
So it could be getting it from Avram, or the fact that he's with Avram, he's getting a bracha. If you're next to a great tzaddik like Avram Avinu, Avram is blessed. It has an impact on his immediate area. Who is Avram's immediate area? Lot. So the Torah spells it out that Lot has tzon, sheep, bakar, cattle, and ohalim, structures of tents for putting people down. And now we meet up with a problem. Pasuk Vav, V'lo nasa otam haaretz lashevet yachdav. Here we see a problem. They can't get together. They can't get together. They cannot live together. Why can't they live together? Is it because there's not enough area?
No.
It says, V'lo nasa otam haaretz. The land cannot bear them to sit together. What does it mean? The second part of the pasuk in verse 6 says, Ki haya rechusham rav, their possessions are so much. V'lo yachlu lashevet yachdav. So what kind of dilemma are we learning about? Is it a problem of area? Is it a problem of there's not enough land in this Beit El area to contain these two owners that have a lot of livestock? Or is it a problem of personality? Because in the next pasuk, maybe it sheds light on this pasuk. Vayihi riv. By the way, when a person, we know Avram is a man of peace. But sometimes when a person meets up with wealth, when he meets up with wealth, sometimes his desires change. And maybe in some people, not in all, it could bring the worst out of your view and your personality. And maybe what we're going to see here, as some of the commentators say, that even the most spacious area cannot accommodate two families. Why? Because if you can really get along with someone else, then even if you live in a caravan, you know what a caravan is? Even if you live in a caravan, then it's fine. A small area can accommodate two families when you get along with one another. Because the amount of space, having much or not, is not the most important thing. What the most important thing is your heart, your attributes. But here we're going to see maybe a very important principle, that when Lot has so much property, it's going to bring out the worst in him, where even such a spacious area that he has cannot accommodate he and Avram Avinu. And there we're going to see, when you don't get along even if you have a lot of area. Let's see how matters develop. Pasuk Zayin, Vayihi Riv, a very important verb in the Chumash. Riv. A meriva, Rav Hirsch, I think, brings it. When the word meriva appears in the book of Dvarim, and it's there talking about physically fighting. So when this phrase, meriva or riv, a quarrel, translated in English perhaps, I don't know exactly, it is an event that cannot be settled. Compromise cannot be found. Rather, here there's no solution. It may reach physical fighting. Who is it between? Let's read. Vayehi riv bein ro'ei miknei Avram uvein ro'ei miknei Lot. The two sides of the Merivah, again, we're categorizing according to Chazal and later the Mefarshim, that a Merivah is a difference between two sides that ultimately can bring about physically fighting. Physically fighting. Who is it between?
The Roim.
The Ro'im. Who is figuratively called the Ro'eh of the Jewish people?
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Very nice. He's considered the Ro'eh, and we are considered the
Sheep.
sheep, right? We see a lot of figurative expressions in the Tanakh like that. Very good, Michael. He's our Ro'etzon. Hashem ultimately also is considered our Ro'eh. How do we spell this word Ro'eh?
Resh, Ein, Yud.
Ro'eh, Rosh Ayin Hey. If I spell with an Aleph, then we're talking about to see. Lir'ot. But here, Lir'ot with an Ayin is to guard, to shepherd, to take care of matters. What's going on? Rashi brings the actual argument, and we'll try to understand in a better way. Rashi brings that there is an argument as to who has title, ownership in the land. Lot is saying, well, the land was promised to you, Avram, and your seed, your children, your offspring. Thank you. Now, you do or do not have children.
No children.
I'm your next of kin. I'm your closest relative. I'm your nephew. It's mine. We're taking over the land. The Ro'im of Avram don't only understand how to take care of sheep and feed them and milk them. They also know from Avram Avinu his values. Avram Avinu is at the moment the owner of the land? No. Why not? He's yet to have offspring. He's yet to take title. Is he promised the land? Absolutely. Notice, and therefore, Avram's shepherds are telling the shepherds of Lot, don't express, don't live as if you own the land. Do you see the last 5 words of this pasuk? V'kinani v'prizi az yoshev ba'aretz. Everyone is asking what type of question here? Why mention this, that the Kanani and the Prizi? Excellent. Why mention it? Rather, this is a reason why Avram cannot express or demonstrate title, ownership of the land, because right now who is occupying the land? 2 examples are brought. 2 of 7 Canaanite entities, tribes, nations. They're in the land. That's one meaning why this is mentioned. Another meaning I read is the following. Who cannot get along here, Ravid? Who can't get along together? The shepherds of Lot and Avram. Is that a big company? Yes or no?
Yes.
It's really small.
Relative, let's use the word relative, to the local Canaanites, is that a big company?
No.
Absolutely, minute. Who is living in the vicinity? Canaanim, Prizim. Are they getting along? Yes. They're getting along in spite of the fact that they are humongous in number, whereas the company of Ro'et son of Avram and Ro'et son of Lot, they have a meriva. What did we say the meriva means?
Quarrel.
Which means what?
Something that's going to lead to
Something's going to lead to fisticuffs. It's going to lead to a fight. It can't be settled. They can't get their act together. You know what the concern of the shepherds And the concern of Avram is, we call this a chilul Hashem, a desecration of God. Why do we call this a desecration of God? These Gentile nations are okay. They're getting along with one another. But we are not. You know what? Maybe there's no other choice other than separate. This giving us the understanding, how to understand the upcoming psukim, your question, David.
No, just basing on what you mentioned, I noticed in Yud Bet Zayin it says Hakanaani as ba'aretz. So it's almost like the Canaanites and the Perizzites came together, and in contrast to
beautiful. You directed your mind to the question of one of the Mefarshim. I forgot which one. Previously, it said the Canaanites are in the land, and now the Torah adds Vakanani Vaprizi in the land. Why? To show that these two are together. They have a decent relationship, and we don't. Therefore, Avram makes a conclusion. Pasuk Chet. Vayomer Avram el Lot. Alna tehi meriva beni uveinecha uvein ro'ai uvein ro'echa ki anashim achim anachnu. Avram immediately rolls up his sleeves, not to fight, but to talk peace. Peace talks. Negotiation number 1. Avram says we must stop this what? Meriva. God forbid we can't continue. It cannot go on between you and me and our shepherds. Why? Now you even see the pshat even better. Look how he terms the words ki anashim achim anachnu. We are
brothers.
We're brothers. We're relatives. Do you now understand the pshat that some of the commentaries say? We're brothers and we can't get along. They're two different nations and they're getting along. Do you see what's bothering Avram in his heart and in his mind? It's a chilul Hashem. It's a desecration of God. Do you see that, gentlemen? They're getting along and we're not. Okay. What should happen? Pasuk Tet. Halochol haaretz lefanecha. The land is big. Some of you know how big it is. We don't believe that tens of millions of Canaanites are living here, but thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of Canaanites. And you know there's plenty of land. There's no problem right now to bring 3 million Jews from Brooklyn. No problem. You can put 3 million in and give another 3 million in Judea and Samaria and 3 million in the Galil. You can bring 10 million Jews right now. Okay? I'll be working in a construction company. And make good money. Gentlemen, halochol haaretz lefanecha. Hipared na me'alai. Separation. Avram came to the conclusion. Notice what he offers. Let's now read the directions. Im hasemol ve'emina. Ve'im hayamin ve'asamila. Im hasmol, don't explain to me the word. Explain to me who. And then it says ve'emina, and I will take the right. So who is hasemol? Lot. If you go hasmol, ve'emina, do you see the aleph in front of the verb? It's I. Then I'll go to the right. Vim hayamin, referring to Lot. Ve'asami'ila. No, we're not talking about that. A town in Egypt called, what's it called? Ismaili? Is there a city? And isn't there a city in Egypt? It sounds like Ismail. No, am I mistaken?
His first son.
Istanbul is in...
No, not Istanbul. In Egypt. Is there a town called Ismail or Ismaili?
Oh, Islamabad. Is enough.
What's it called?
No, nothing.
Is enough. Istanbul.
Islamabad?
Islamabad is in.
So I was thinking of something else. Let's get back. What kind of offer? That if you go to the left, I'll go to the right, and if you go to the right, I'll go to... Look at me, gentlemen. What do you think? How do you understand this? Ravid, how do you understand this? Right, left.
You don't like to fight.
I understand the reason to separate. Now we're asking the concept. Yamin and small here. What does that mean?
He's giving him the precedence of choice.
I am very good. What does though Yamin and small, right and left mean here?
Small is Israel, and Yamin is like the Jordan, Yarden.
Are only
The
different opinions.
meaning, mina, la, min, ma, min,
Opposite.
Ishmael, Amen. I don't know, just
No.
playing on the words.
Okay. I'm now going to share with you something very important. Whenever you study Tanakh and you're studying directions, when the Tanakh gives us directions or places, remember the following rule. I heard this from one of my Rebbe's, Rav Eli Mali, the Rosh Hashiva in Yafa, many years ago. Put your backs right now to the Yam HaTichon, Yam HaGadol. Let's put our backs right now, only me. Right? My back is now to the Yam HaTichon, yes or no?
Yeah.
My back is to which direction?
West.
West. All directions in Tanakh is in the case where our backs are to the west. By definition, the right is to which direction?
South.
And my left
North.
to the north. Okay? Right and left. That's why Teiman, which is Yemen, Yamin, it's the south, right? It's the south part of the Middle East.
Okay.
On the other side of the Jordan, the Gulf of Aqaba, Teiman, Yemen. Okay? So Yamin and small. Now, my question to all of you is, what does Avram mean? If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the... What is he offering?
It's offering a choice between two very different lands. A very dry land. I don't know for sure, but
Again. Right and left is north and south.
Okay.
What is he offering him? He's offering him land, by the way.
There's famine in the south.
He's offering land.
He's off.
He's offering, look, if you go north of here, I'll be south of you. And if you're going to be south, I'll be north of you.
Frozen half of the country, basically.
He doesn't extend it to that much. What he means is we still can be not far from one another. We'll just be separate. Right now they're together and they can't get along. It's not a problem of land. It's a problem who has title over the land. Lot is claiming title, ownership over the land. Avram says it's not mine yet. I have a promise from God. And here, interesting, Avram understands that he can give part of the land to Lot. He's offering. So Avram's idea is let's be in proximity. Let's be not far from one another, close by. You go to the north, I'll go to the south. Read the next pasuk. What or which direction? Read the next two psukim. And tell me, which direction did Lot choose?
East.
North or south?
East. Yes.
So you offer someone, you take number 3 or 4, and he takes number 5. What's going on here? Is it a question or not?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to get... Do you understand the question, Eitan?
Yes.
He decides to go east. Okay, so let's understand. Why does Lot decide to go east? Pasuk Yud, verse 10. Vayisa Lot et einav. Vayar et kol kikar hayarden. Ki chula mashke. לפני שחט אדוני את סדום ואת עמורה, כגן אדוני, כארץ מצרים בואכה צוער. The Talmud teaches us, and the Balei Musar write a lot about it, and it's so true for us that we have to be very careful. In today's open and free world, especially on these phones, we must get a filter for our phones, because often our eyes can see the wrong things. Eyes see things first. Then the heart begins to lust and desire, and then action. Here, Lot raised up his eyes. He can see going down to the Jordan Valley. His eyes are full of seeing the physical material, green. He sees the greenery, the vegetation down there. Wow, what a place. I can make $1 million. Okay? The eyes of Lot apparently are full of lust. Okay? And he doesn't argue. Oh, no, Uncle Avram, no, I'm not gonna. No, he doesn't argue against Avram to remain with him. Rather, he chooses to go to a place where the Chumash describes. the Jordan, the Kikar Yarden, this Jordan area, Kikar. Is there a Kikar over here?
Yes.
What is it called? Kikar Meiri?
Roundabout.
Roundabout? Did you buy a Kikar of Lechem, Thomas?
No.
A Kikar can mean a loaf of bread, Kikar. Kikar here, Rabbeinu Saja Gaon explains, is an area for a plantation, an area for planting trees, pardesim, orchards. Okay? If we're somewhere in the Beit El area, okay, Mamash, next door to where I live, and we go straight down, we're going down to the Jordan Valley, the Jericho Valley. That area is almost like a Gan Eden, a Garden of Eden. Do you know how many springs of water there are there? In addition that it's not far from which river?
Jordan River.
The Jordan River. Not far from the Jordan River. Lot says, wow, I'm not going to go not to the right, nor to the left, not to the north, nor to the south. Why? I'm looking for money. Materialism. Is that clear to you? Don't accept what I'm saying. Do you see that in the Psukim? And of course the Chumash, after his vision of his eyes, what he sees an area of Sodom and Amorah, okay? 2 cities, or he knows that the area is there. They're equal to what? A Gan Hashem. They're like a Garden of Eden. Because the rivers and the springs are irrigating the Jordan Valley. And the Torah tells us all this is before the destruction of those cities. What is going to be happening in next week's Parsha?
Avram asks Hashem to not destroy
And what will be destroyed?
the city of Sodom and
The
Amorah.
cities of Sodom and Amorah. That's right. So therefore, he chooses money. Litraut, Uncle Abe, Uncle Avram. Would you give up Avram Avinu if you were his nephew?
No.
Okay.
That's for sure no.
Pasuk Yud Aleph. The choice is made. He packs up his Samsonite luggage. Vayivchar lo Lot et kol kikar Yarden. Vayisa Lot mikedem. Vayipardu ish me'alachiv. You have a question? Ask it.
It's just from the east. Wasn't he in the west?
Thomas, do you understand Dora's question?
Yeah. So when they're speaking, they're on west side from
Right now, they're in the mountain area, somewhere between Beit El and Hebron, likely to be Beit El. And he's about to travel in which direction?
east.
The east.
East. And what does the Torah say? Vayisa Lot mi kedem. What does mi kedem mean?
East.
From the
From the east.
Yeah.
And your question is, what should it be stated?
From the west.
From the west. He's traveling from the west, meaning going in the easterly direction.
Yeah.
So, would you please bring me the eraser? We'll change the word. Can I change the word, Eitan?
No,
Why not?
you can do it.
Why not?
It's given by Moshe. You can change.
It was given to Moshe. We can't make changes? This Torah is eternal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, we have a problem. Let's now learn 2 explanations to this classic question. Very good that you asked. You're very strong in Nivutim, we see. Okay, in navigation. My dear friends, first, is it clear to you? This is a choice, an intellectual choice of Lot. He is choosing, he wants money rather than morality. Why do we say that? We know what kind of constitutional law exists in the cities of Sodom and Amorah. Do you know what is a violation of the law in Sodom and Amorah?
And
To do chesed. It's outlawed. The people there are rotten, selfish, thinking of themselves. Kindness is outlawed. You cannot tend to the poor, to the widows, to the orphans. Is that clear to you? We see that later in the Parsha. The Midrash is full of it. He knows what's going on there. So his choice is, I prefer what?
Kesef.
Money, material matters, rather than what?
Spirituality.
Morality, values. Is that clear to all of us?
Yeah.
This will be a prelude to understand Vayisa Lot Mikedem. First, a pshat on the word Mikedem. the Divrei David, one of the Achronim, I forgot his last name, his commentary on Rashi. There are many commentaries on Rashi as well. Not only is Rashi's commentary fantastic, but there are tens upon tens of commentaries on Rashi, like Siftei Chachamim, the Mizrahi, the Maral of Prague, in this case called the Divrei David. I'm going to ask Eitan. Stand up, please. Okay? You're in front of Avram Avinu. Steve is Avram Avinu. And this is the direction of Sodom and Amorah, going east. And you don't want to really, in front of your uncle, show him that you're going east. What do you do first?
We go this
Go. Duck over there. And now start coming east. Okay. Wow, very good.
Shakespeare.
What is the word they use? Encore. What's the word?
Encore.
As Eitan did very well, he really went west. Why? He didn't want to show Avram that he's going east. So he first went west, and then when he wasn't watching, he went east. That's Miked. However, we must see the question is the Midrash Agadah. Rashi brings in verse 11, my friends. See it? In verse 11, the last Rashi in this verse. Midrash Agadah. Here's a legend of the Midrash, which comes from Bereshit Rabbah, the Rabbah series. Hisia atzmo mikadmono shel olam. Amar, i'afshi lo ba'avram velo be'elohav. The Midrash says, you know what it means, Mikedem? Kedem is God. Why is God nicknamed Kedem? He is the Kadmon. He is the first and foremost. He preceded the world. He is Kadmon. Okay, the famous ongoing debate in world universities, in Oxford and in Harvard. Okay, creationist versus evolutionist. Did God exist? And he created the world, or was there only an evolution and the world has been existing all the time? God is called, we believe he is Kadmon. He's first and foremost. He's been in the world all the time. God was, God is, and God will be. So when it says that Lot is traveling Mikedem, he's leaving God of Avram. I decide to take money and not morality. So that's what it means in the more deeper understanding. He's made a decision that he doesn't want Avram. I don't want you, and I don't want your God. Do you understand? Right. I don't want you. I'afshi ani lo otzeh otcha v'ani lo otzeh et elokecha. That is the decision. What a decision. Let me ask you something. If you adopted your nephew, you've been taking care of him, feeding him, you've been buying him, the ice creams, the Magnum, the chocolate. You've been taking care of him all the time for years now. And now your nephew says, "Litraut, uncle, I'm going elsewhere." It's like a slap in the face, isn't it? You don't agree with me? Is it like a slap in the face? You would think, Beseder. Does he have money or not, Lot? Is he lacking something? No. Yet he wants more. It's exactly what Chazal say, Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei. You have 100, you want 200. You have 200, you want 400. He's not satisfied. What do Chazal say in opposition to this? Who is a wealthy man? Miu Ashir?
You accept this...
Hasameach b'chelko. Someone who's happy with his portion. That's what God gave me. You're going to tell God, you don't know how to run the world. I'm sorry. Why should he be driving that Audi or that Mercedes and I'm driving a Fiat? Don't you know what you're doing? You know what? He knows what he's doing. Hashem knows exactly what he's doing. And we have to be happy with what we have. Okay. So here it is. Lot does not go to the north or the south, not Yamin and not Small, which is north and south, but rather he goes east, far from Avram. Okay? He's exempting Avram from moving to another place because they're now in total separation. And he's en route to a place called, let's see where he goes. Pasuk Yudbet. Avram yashav be'eretz Canaan, velot yashav b'arei hakikar, vayehal at Sodom. Okay? So we see here that Lot is not a tzaddik. He does depart from Avram Avinu. He does not adhere to the values of who Avram Avinu is. And he doesn't make shalom or compromise. And even though he was given the choice what to choose, so he chooses, and he chooses to go down far away. What did Avram choose instead? What did Avram choose instead to stay where? It says Avram Yashav Be'eretz Canaan. Why is the Torah saying that to me now? What is the choice of Avram? He doesn't go to Las Vegas. Where does he go to? He remains in the land of Canaan. Why does Avram remain in the land of Canaan? Hashem promised the land. Hashem promised the land. He's sitting tight. He doesn't move anywhere. He doesn't move anywhere. What's your question?
Yeah, question, because the whole quarrel started with the herdsman from Lot and Avram. But how is it now that Lot, who had the company of Roim, now gonna live in a city?
I don't think in those days there's such a thing called just pure urban living. Everyone has fields.
Okay.
Everyone has fields. It could be that the population is consolidated in one area. Okay? What does the Torah tell about the wealth of Lot? It says, Yashav ba'arei hakikar, vayehal at Sodom. In other words, he could be more towards the Jericho Valley, which is ideal places for planting trees. Again, I remember watching and seeing, and I've seen it not far from it, that the Jericho Valley is full of tree plants, especially tamarim, date trees and other trees. It's a very fertile land. So he's sitting there, but look how far south his construction goes. He has a construction company, or he has an agricultural company. His oalim reach all the way going down to Sodom. Isn't it tens of kilometers along the Dead Sea Road down to the city of Sodom? It's tens and tens of kilometers. So you see that Lot has tremendous wealth. But who is in Sodom? The Torah tells us, Pasuk Yud Gimel, V'anshei Sodom ra'im v'chataim ladunai me'od. What's outstanding in this pasuk that grabs your eyes when you're analyzing Torah here? This pasuk 13. What do you notice here in pasuk 13?
Two things.
What two things do you notice? Ra'im
The
v'chataim.
difference, and the second, the me'ot.
Oh, the
Fourth time
superlative. Me'od. Ra'im v'chataim. They're evil and they're sinful. Why not just write Ra'im? Why do you have to say Ra'im v'chataim? Rashi gives one answer. Ra'im begufam, they're bad with their bodies, and they're sinful with their money. They steal, they cheat, they lie regarding financial matters. Okay? In other words, vis-a-vis, Adam lechavero, one man to a fellow man. We're talking about the worst norms of life, ben Adam lechavero. Okay? If they were just ra'im, bad people, that's something. But there are different madrigot levels of being evil. And here we're learning that they are me'od. Wow. So here you see that in spite of this, Lot chooses to live with these type of people. Uncle Avram, how do you feel about your nephew leaving you? Aleph. Bet. Uncle Avram, how do you feel about your nephew living among such terrible people? Huh? You think Avram said, well, he deserves it? I don't want. They're not going to talk anymore. No more love letters. We'll learn later. My dear friends, read please Pasuk Yudalid and Tetvav and Tetzayin. They're all one communication. And Yud Zayin, 4 verses. Yudalid, Tetvav 14, 15. Tetzayin, Yud Zayin 16 and 17. Okay. What do we have here? Any questions raised? I'm opening up with a question in verse 14. It says, Vashem Amar El Avram. What's the beginning of our parsha? Does it say Vashem Amar El Avram by us as well?
Okay. He appeared.
No, that's Vayera. That's when he goes to Shem. How does the parsha open up with? Vayomer Hashem El Avram. Is that what it says there? So we should raise a question. Here it says Vashem Amar El Avram. What's that vav doing there? That's vav chibur. It's a vav connecting vav. Right after the separation of Lot, immediately, Avram gets a revelation from God. Why? And what's in this revelation that he did not get in other places? Once Avram is separated from this evil person, Rasha, Avram gets a revelation from God. And he gets a promise, and he gets more details in this promise that he got beforehand. And it's a lengthy promise to Avram Avinu. Why? In merit that he's no longer connected to Lot. What is written in this promise? Pasuk Yedal, Vashem Amar El Avram, Acharei Pared Lot Meimo. Here it's connected because Lot is no longer. He's separated now from Avram. Hashem reveals himself to Avram. Sana Einecha Urei. Raise your eyes and see. Min hamakom acherat Hashem. Look in all four directions. Tzafona, Vanegba, Vakedma, Vayama. Look in all four directions. Here we see a specific promise regarding the land of Canaan. Tetva, verse 15. Ki et kol haaretz asher ta roeh lecha etnena ulezaracha ad olam. I'm stopping here. What is Avram told that he was not told before in the other revelation?
It'll be forever.
Where do you see that forever?
Ulezaracha ad olam.
Very good. Number one, that the land of Canaan will be for you forever. What else is new, a novelty here that we didn't see before?
Maybe something about the details of the land, northward, southward.
Kol haaretz asher ta roeh, Thomas. The emphasis, kol haaretz. Huh? What's new here?
It's not just a piece of the land, all the land that you can see.
Very good. All of the land of Canaan you can see is yours. And forever, for all generations. Can you really see everything? So listen, please. You've been to Givat Asaf?
Yeah.
Do you remember we hiked up to the top of the hill where the soldiers are doing guard duty? Do you remember they pointed out just a little north, those white golf balls on top of a mountain? Those are makamim. Those are surveillance installations with high technology on top of that mountain. Every plane that gets off in Syria and Jordan, we see from there. Do you know what I'm talking about? Which mountain? That mountain is called Bal Chatzor. It's the tallest mountain in the Binyamin region. It's about 1,000 meters above sea level. According to some Eretz Yisrael experts, maybe that was the mountain that Avram stood upon, not far from Beit El Orai. And from there, we're told that you can see the Hermon, and you can see Beersheba in the south. I've done once or twice before reserve duty. On the first day of reserve day, they took us to that mountain. It's a base, army base, to do shooting practice before we start our duty and reserve duty. And it's very hard to get into the base because there's such sensitive equipment there. And even though we have all the issues, we waited on the bus, but I think like for 15, 20 minutes. With all the Ishurim, it was so there was such a strictness and sternness of checking out this and that. We're a busload of Miluim, old people, old fogies like me, trying to go in to do a shooting range. We still waited. So on a clear day, people say that from that mountain, they can see all the way up to the Hermon. That's hundreds of kilometers, my friends. And going south, all the way down to Beersheba. So some people think that maybe Avram stood upon that mountain upon getting this message from Hashem. So here we see, after the break-off of Lot, the Rasha is no longer with Avram Avinu. Avram merits, number one, the promise of all the land that he did not get before. And it's for forever, the point that you said, le'olam. Now, lecha etnena, ulezaracha ad olam. It's to you and not to Lot. Maybe what could have Avram understood before this event when he offered Lot? You go to the Yamin, I'll go Smo. You go to Smo. He's offering him land. It's not for him. It's for you and your offspring only. Lecha ulezaracha ad olam. No one else can have it. So here we see the clear expression of the promise of the entire land. And now he gets this because Lot is separated from Avraham. Okay? The same Lot that joined Avram and helped him leave Haran. Hashem decreed some reward for Lot. Maybe Avram thought he's going to get a portion amidst my portion. But the question is here, no, you're not going to get it. So now this prophecy stated now because Lot is not here. Yes.
It says for his offspring. Doesn't that mean that also his Avram's other son should have some part of the land? Yishmael?
Excellent question. So what happens when we get to Yitzchak Avinu? Okay? And there is Yitzchak and who else? Yishmael. So maybe Ishmael also. So we're going to have to study the promises to see, does Ishmael merit to get this land of God or not? Okay? Now let's go to the second part of his promise. Tet Zayin. V'samti et zaracha ka'afar ha'aretz. The children of Avram Avinu are likened to what?
Dust of the earth.
I beg your pardon. Why the dust of the earth?
It's uncountable.
What?
It's uncountable.
Very nice. It's you cannot account it for it. It's unaccountable. So we're talking about one understanding. Ke'afara aretz. Again, it's zaracha. Your zera, and not whose?
Lot.
And not Lot. What else could afar represent, my dear friends?
What?
You're talking about quantity. Michael Ari is talking about quantity. Your seed, your children will be like the afar of the land. Is it true that how many are living in China today?
Yeah.
1 point some billion?
It says you'll be a small people.
How many living in China today? 1 billion?
1 billion.
1 billion.
I think
1.2.
1.2 billion?
Like that, yeah.
Okay. And the Jewish people are not meant, you're quoting a pasuk in the book of Dvarim, David is, and he's saying, quote, Ki atem ha'me'at mikol ha'amim. You are the ma'at, the few of all the nations. So maybe we should raise a contradiction to this designation, to what the Torah says to Am Yisrael later in the book of Dvarim. Do you understand the question?
Yes.
You have an answer?
Yes, I'm also thinking because just like dust is connected with the earth, you cannot have earth without dust. So it's maybe like his children gonna be connected with the land. That's what I think.
Connected to them, we're going to be good farmers, tilling the land. That could be.
Of not farmers, but like you cannot have a land without dust. So you cannot have a land without Bnei Israel.
Okay. Then does anyone know what Chazal talk about? One of the unique attributes of the Jewish people? Humility. We can humble ourselves, lower our ego, lower our egoism, like the dust of the earth, like the low parts of the earth. So that's what some of the commentators explain. Okay? And that will be unaccountable. That'll be unaccountable. Furthermore, Avram now gets a command. Pasuk Yud Zayin, verse 17. What does God say to him? Kum hitalech ba'aretz le'orka ule'rochba ki lecha etnena. Does this go in tune to what we've seen about Avram Avinu until now?
No.
Did we notice that Avram is sitting still? Where's Avram arrived to so far and been to? Which places? Number one, in order.
Bethel I.
In order. Shechem. Then Beitel. Then
I.
the Beitel Ai. Then the Negev. And then he went down to Mitzrayim, which is not his. And then he came back up to the same places. Avram is a go-getter. Avram is in movement. What is God saying? Kum hitalech ba'aretz. Why? One of the ways the Talmud teaches us that an acquisition, a kinyan, is made for property, things that do not move, is called a chazakah. If you maintain your physical presence on the land for a year, 2 years, and 3 years, and so on and so forth, you are demonstrating that it's yours. It's not enough to see the land, but rather walk. Demonstrate ownership of the land. Okay? And that's what Avram has to do. And when we are going on a hike, okay, when we hike and walk in the land of Israel, we're basically going in the path of Avram Avinu. We're walking in the land. We're demonstrating ownership. Okay? Some people say, well, why does Machon Meir on Yom Yerushalayim go to East Jerusalem? We have a habit of our hikes. Purposely, we want to go in areas where a lot of Jews don't want to walk because they're afraid to be there. We dafka go to show that all of Yerushalayim belongs to the Jewish people. There are security officers there. We're not going to instigate anything. We're not being provocative, but we're walking to show that this is ours. We have a divine right to this land. Okay? A lot of Jews don't want to do it. We are your shlichim. We're your messengers. Look at the army. Doesn't the army have simple people that are working in mechanics, working in offices, working in the kitchen? Not everyone can be a support system to the army. Not everyone can be a combat soldier in the army. Not everyone can be in top units in the army. There are different levels of the Jewish people in the army. So too, walking and living in the land of Israel. There are different lands. There are people that have to live in Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion. For them, it's too difficult to live in Yerushalayim. And there are people that live in Yerushalayim is fine, but not East Yerushalayim. And there are people that can live in East Yerushalayim, in Hebron, and so on and so forth. There are different levels of people. Here, Avram Avinu is told to go walk in the land. What does Avram Avinu do? Pasuk Yudchet, the ending of this chapter. Vayehal Avram, vayavo. How many verbs do you count inside this pasuk?
4.
4 verbs.
Yeah.
What does that tell us? 4 verbs inside one pasuk.
He's moving.
He's in movement. He's a man of action. Vayal Avram, he pitches his tent. He gets going. He moves it from place to place. Okay? Vayavo vayeshev be'elonei mamrei asher bechevron. What is elon? What is alon or elon?
Tree, no?
The tree. An oak tree is the alon tree. Where's the famous oak tree that you know?
In Gush Etzion.
In Gush Etzion, right, in front of Alon Shvut. Why is it called Alon Shvut? The return to the Alon, right? You remember that, David? Return to the oak tree. Alon Shvut. There are Alonim that belong to a person called. What is this? A novel? Why mention him? Who is Mamre? Why mention his name? Mamre is the name of a person. Some say, by the way, Elonei is the Mishor, the straight area, but some explain also that it's the Elonim. Later on, Chazal teach us that Mamre has merits. He gives advice to Avram Avinu regarding sensitive matters. I'm talking about circumcision. And therefore he has zchuyot. So here it is. Avram is moving. He's dwelling. Maybe dwelling permanently. Vayeshev. Vayeshev is not just pitching his tent for a few days, but he's dwelling in Elonei Mamrei by Hebron. Masei Avot Siman Labanim. Hebron will later become the place of burial for he and his wife. We'll continue this with our next shiur.